code. My candidate number is 2012115, and I'm going to be presenting to you my Level 6 Unit 5 Choreography Assessment 1, based all around choreographers, their processes, and how they've influenced and created my choreographic process. So a little bit about me at first. I started dancing at the age of 3. A lot of it was through stage school, musical theatre. I went on and did my A-levels. I did do my dance A-level. I then did go on to Loughborough, but only for about 8 months because I decided that I wanted to pursue the more musical theatre and stage route. I carried on working professionally as a dancer, and I toured all the way across the world, did lots of different contracts on cruises, land-based contracts, all sorts of things. I did a lot of, that's when I started my backing dancing, a lot more commercial stuff, which became where I then set up my local street dance school, which became one of the biggest ones in West Sussex. I had the biggest boys troupe, freestyle, break dancing, and that's really where my kind of choreographic process started, and on a journey for me as well as I think for them. So there's nothing really that was around at that time, and all of this happened at the same time as diversity within Britain's Got Talent. There's a big surge in street dance and break dancing, which is quite good for me, having set up a school at the same time like that, because that gave me a lot of input of students and things I could do, and a lot of platforms to work with them. Now my main love is lyrical and contemporary jazz. Again, due to a more dynamic change of a programme called Dance Moms. I don't think many of you have seen it. It is very showy, but it is kind of more to do with tricks and kind of lyrical tricks and children wanting to get their legs up behind their head, and all that kind of where I see for what I teach where children want to be now. So I try and develop them in that way. The first choreographer I'm going to look at today is Kendrick Sandy. He's a street dance choreographer. He's the co-founder and the artistic director of Boy Blue. He was a massive, massive influence in the street dance world over the last 10 years. He didn't start dancing until he was 18, very late, because he was going to be a professional basketball player. He ended up joining a local dance school and then became a big tricker, which is in the dance world. Does lots of tricks, lots of break dancing tricks, things like that. He went on to become a massive, well-known figure within the dance industry. He did, as you can see, a lot of credits, worked in TV, film. He did things with Victoria Beckham, a lot of backing dancing. He became a big choreographer. Some of the things there that he choreographed, such as Black, White, Gay, The Five and Prophecy of Piranha. He eventually set up his company, Boy Blue, which I'm going to give you a work from in a second. And he did end up doing the London Olympics and became a big figure for that, which gave him an MBE. And he's now seen in the UK scene as one of the most influential and innovative, creative choreographers. This is just a little bit more on him. Obviously, it goes on and on. He, like I said, he did want to be a basketball player. I think for him, that's where his, not so much his choreographic process, but his inner kind of processes came out from the street, from the urban life, from being grime, and that's where all of his choreographic intentions derived from and originated. So, who is Boy Blue Entertainment? So his company is Boy Blue Entertainment. They're a massive name now in the urban and street scene, and he is the co-artistic director and composer, and I'm trying to say he's co-artistic director with someone else, Mikey J. Anderson. Yeah, that's it. Sorry. These are a few pieces of images from the Emancipation of Expressionism, which is the piece that I looked at to show the choreographic process that I chose to study as part of my piece. As you can see, very dark, very mellow, and this particular scene, especially the one up here on the top right corner, is one of the main kind of influences that I used in my piece, which is about a Rubik's Cube, which I'm going to show and explain to you in a bit more detail in just a second. So, the Emancipation of Expressionism, it was a production created by Boy Blue, and it went on to become a big GCSE focus. As you can see, he was the choreographer, Danny Boyle was the director, music was by various others, and as you can see there were many other dancers involved as well. It was funded by the Space and produced by the Arts Trust, so it was a massive piece that went, like I said, ended up going into GCSE specification, and now is all over the UK with loads of notes, there's posters, there's all sorts of information available about this piece, and the way it was choreographed and the process that they all used. And it was also filmed and performed at the Barbican Theatre in 2017. The second choreographer which I chose to use, I didn't use him as a direct influence. What I used was an influence of something else that I was going to use as part of my process, which was mental health. So I researched choreographers that had used mental health as part of their pieces. And then I came across this guy called Ludwig Ondevilla. He was a French and Spanish dancer and choreographer. He was a former first in the Royal Ballet, and he came up through the Royal Ballet. He went through the upper school, and then he ended up as the first in 2007. He only stayed there for 7 years, and he retired in 2014 to become a choreographer. Now, his first work, which is the work that I studied as well, was called Cassandra. Not only was he a ballet dancer, he also studied ice skating. He won many awards when he was growing up for his dancing. And like I said, he went eventually into the choreographic route. And the piece that I studied was Cassandra. Now this piece here was all about mental health. And I really liked the way, once I started researching, was how he understood and processed and developed his choreographic process in understanding about mental health and how you can interpret that into a dance setting. So just to quote here that he said, I started looking into the story of Cassandra because today, someone who's diagnosed with psychosis is said to still have the Cassandra syndrome. It's interesting that there is a very blurred line in society between what is considered bad and what is considered normal behaviour. We might all have behaviours that someone else would consider mad because they don't relate to it. I found that quite an interesting quote because obviously everyone's different and everyone thinks differently, and even someone that's considered having a mental health issue, they might still not think that they're under a specialism of having that title. That's just a few pictures up there. This was part of Cassandra and his work and the process of understanding mental health. And so, I put here, what was the choreographic process on these two set works? I've done them side by side, so it gives you an idea of a contrast, and it was easy for me to understand as well in my head what I could get from both and how I can kind of merge them into one. I'm just going to show you this little clip here first. And this is from Kendrick Sandy, and actually there was a piece, a film that Darcy Russell went, and she went to explore different choreographers and what their processes were for various dances. And this one was really interesting, and it's Kendrick Sandy talking about how he developed this little section in Emancipation of Expressionism, which is about the Rubik's Cube, and how he went to develop his ideas with his dancers, and that's what I've kind of drawn from that, from my own research.
Kenrick's choreography draws inspiration from Mike Keane's music and a wide range of other sources, from a stylized rugby scrum to the mechanical movement of a Rubik's Cube.
There's a section with 8 other dancers and there's always one gap missing. And that one gap missing is for someone to slot in. So they're slotting in and moving in a particular way, just like a Rubik's Cube.
Drama does not tend to deal in groups, really. And that's one of the liberating things I find about dance, and particularly about Ken's work, is that the group dynamic is so powerful. It's such an extraordinary force that you experience. And it doesn't matter whether you know anything about dance. Probably if someone says to you, do you like modern dance? You probably go, do I? You don't even think of it as like that, just watch it. It's amazing.
So that was Danny Boyle giving a bit of an insight, so obviously he's the director for that piece. So as you can see, Kendrick Sandy was explaining about that process. Now I didn't really look too much into the piece as a whole, I just took that little section of the Rubik's Cube, which some of you might remember when we done John's unit, you actually did do the practical bit, which I kind of taught you in there when you were moving around. And from doing that, you obviously know how much energy and output that took, just creating that little section of work that we did before. I moved over to Cassandra, and again, talking about mental researchers for mental illness, and he researched this by going into hospitals and talking to people with these illnesses and asking them how they felt and their observations. And he explained this by saying we walked through the whole hospital, which was very important to get the feeling of these very clinical and rather grim places alike. He also says, I've tried to incorporate the physicality of some of the patients I saw, putting them into the ballet to make something realistic, sometimes ugly to look at and emotionally quite powerful. For instance, I saw a lot of people who had nervy twitches. I think there can be sometimes be great beauty in ugliness. Now, I didn't really take anything choreographically from putting twitches into my own choreographic process, but what I looked at in my own choreographic process was integrating a Rubik's Cube and the mental illness and how I could mix these in together to create a choreographic piece. Just underneath, I've kind of taken two things out of each column that I've wanted to work on towards my own choreographic process. So I've used structure and colour. So obviously a Rubik's Cube is structured in the sense that it's a very strong cuboid shape, and colour because there are various different colours on the Rubik's Cube. I've chosen to use experiences and misunderstanding because in Cassandra, he researched and processed a lot of experiences by going to these hospitals and trying to work out the understanding and the misunderstanding based around this whole mental health issue. So this moves me on to how did these two studies impact my own choreographic process? So I put here just a few different things and ideas that I've used and developed, researching the Rubik's Cube and how each colour could represent an emotion or a feeling within someone who struggles with mental illness, and that was kind of the main stimulus that I used. So in a Rubik's Cube, red could represent the anger inside someone's head, the yellow could represent even them feeling happy and joyful at various times, you know, in the day or in the week. I've also put, looking at the structure of a Rubik's Cube, how strong the structure is, but this can be twisted and shaped, relating also to mental illness, because sometimes I feel like maybe in a mental issue, like with an illness, you might feel that you're structured, but there might be elements that you might want to twist or shape in order to make yourself get better or feel better. I put developing the improvisation task into a structured motif using choreographic devices and principles of space dynamics and relationships, the body and levels. I haven't spoken much about my group yet, but I will get to that. But I have used improvisation tasks based on different colours. If I show you these images here, I took these pictures, obviously a picture of the Rubik's Cube, and then various words and colours that are related to the mental health. If you have a look, obviously, especially the ones at the top there, some of them aren't nice, and you know, even reading them, you kind of feel that, you know, it already triggers off some sort of thought and emotion. So what we did, as part of an improvisation task, we did use the Rubik's Cube, which I haven't got pictures of the students because of data protection things like that. I will get pictures eventually, where we had to play about of them using the structure, how they could move, how independently they moved of each other. We've done a few mind maps and we've talked about mental illness and what it makes us feel, what the colours make us feel, and how we can either relate that to how they feel sometimes or how we felt in the past. And then eventually developing these into dance motifs, and like I said, with the improvisations, using the body to be able to move as if we're stressed or feeling some of these words that they chose to pick out. And again, these are the words at the bottom I've used as part of my choreographic process. Colours and structure, which is the Rubik's Cube, and then words and emotions. And I will push all these into a unified structure in order to lead towards my choreographic process. So my piece is called Voices Dancing, and I explore the relationship between a person affected by mental health and how these are communicated and explored through different choreographic devices and movement patterns. We go through a journey inside someone's mind and how it works independently and dependently with other emotions and feelings, and how this person sometimes feels one thought and then something else, and then they can feel something else again, maybe all at the same time, or one emotion, different times. Eventually, my piece is about a journey, so it's quite narrative. It's a clear beginning, has a middle, and then it gets to the end. And then where I want the end to be is the person who I would say is like the main structure. So if I relate this to the Rubik's Cube, is the black colour. That's the main structure and body, which could be me, it could be you, it could be someone else. And the colours are all the individual emotions that are pushing and dividing that person. And at the end, we're going to have the person regaining control of themselves and their structure, being free of all these colours and their emotions. Or as I said here, of their voices and thoughts in their head that they hear and that they feel. It is a continuous improvisation because there are various relationships throughout my dance, and I have one dancer being one colour. So I've got one girl who's a red, one who's the green, one who's the yellow, and one who's the orange. There's only 5 dancers, but because of that, it gives quite a close relationship of being able to choreograph and do different improvisational tasks with each dancer in order to create each relationship having a different dynamic, and then eventually building up to create one big section. Any questions?
How do you intend to show the emotions that you're talking about through the different characters?
So we're going to try developing the emotions. At the moment, they're all very stage school children, so they're not used to doing improvisation tasks. They're not used to doing things that aren't just choreographed for them. So it is challenging my own process in the sense that I have to draw it out of them by, improvisation tasks, going back to mind maps, what we've done at the beginning, going back to revisit the pictures before, such as these, and get them to re-establish how they feel, how words make them feel, and just keep trying to process it in their mind, as well as mine as well, that they have never done this before, and using this as a process and a journey altogether, rather than just it being my own process, but for them a process of how choreography is put together and how they can draw their own dynamics through different emotions and colours and dynamics.
You mentioned about the structures that you use within your piece. I was just wondering, could you describe how you use the use of structures in your piece, with there being 5 dancers?
Yeah, so the dancer who I call Dancer 1, she's like the main body of the piece, and she's the one that goes around to visit and make relationships with the other dancers. So there are 4 there's one solo, 4 duets, and then eventually they all come together, not as a unison, because there's different things all going on at the same time, which will then eventually lead to her finishing on her own. So it's quite a structured piece. Like I said, it is a narrative, and I think with the music that I've used as well, it complements the piece because it builds up and still takes you on a journey.
So is it about that one, basically about that one dancer and her emotions
Yeah.
on her?
Yeah. So it starts with her and finishes with her.
And is the music going to guide that piece of music as well? Because you said you chose the music.
I chose the music originally, just through research and looking at different styles. It's quite I call it like a film soundtrack. because it is quite dynamic in the sense that when you listen to a soundtrack for a film or something, it kind of goes through, you know, a low beginning and it gets really big and then kind of finishes on the low. So yeah.
Sam, I just wondered, your choice of sound, was that related at all to Danny Boyle? Because obviously he's a filmmaker, isn't he? I'm just interested what guided that choice, of, you know, or whether that's just coincidental.
I just like to come from a kind of theatrical background anyway. I think listening to a piece in my head, I get a picturesque feel or vision of something on stage when I listen to a piece of music. So the piece that I've chosen just naturally made it quite theatrical, and not necessarily theatrical, but that sense of it being like a soundtrack and taking you on a journey and then tapering